So my project interrogates how racialized people in Echo Park, Los Angeles, which is northwest of downtown, maybe like 9 or 10 miles away from here. And I know because I drove from there today. How racialized people in Echo Park navigate processes of whitewashing and gentrification, and how their graffiti writing / tagging and style of clothes become a form of resistance to and critique of their displacement. Hence, the term layered geographies refers to the contested spaces where struggles over aesthetics, visibility, and belonging are played out. The concept reminds us that the creation of white space via whitewashing relies on the enforcement of this disciplining power and the policing of geographic boundaries for brown bodies. So I tried to, so this is pulling from my MA thesis, which is all over the place because I feel like I need to think about a lot of things so I could talk about what I want to talk about. So we're going to go through a journey of thinking about an effective economy of white pleasure that creates gentrification, right? That pushes for gentrification, specifically in Echo Park. So thinking about how places like Koreatown and Echo Park are now seen as like day leisure sites where you go have brunch and go on a paddleboat and do cute things, right? But don't think about what else is white pleasure pushing for the maintenance of this leisure space, right? So in LA, we have 46 gang injunctions. And a gang injunction is basically a civil lawsuit against a group of people, and LAPD doesn't, well, not LAPD, the city doesn't have to list any particular names. It could just say people of Los Angeles versus Echo Park locals, and then the police decide who's an Echo Park local, which is really messed up because it gives a lot of power to police. And so if we're thinking about the way that white pleasure affects policing and carceral spaces, we're also thinking about how, particularly in Echo Park, there's a backdrop of a legacy of dispossession because of Chavez Ravine. So Chavez Ravine was a Mexican-American community in what is now known as Dodger Stadium. And they were, the families that lived there were basically evicted and promised that there was going to be public housing and they would get like first dibs on housing, but the land was given for free to Walter O'Malley, who's the owner of the Dodgers, as a push to bring the Dodgers to LA. So I'm utilizing Marcia Ochoa's methodology of Huecos Negros, which is thinking about intersectionality, but also thinking about time travel and traveling through space and time to think about how these legacies of dispossession and displacement are very much connected, right? So it's what I call the haunting of Chavez Ravine, and always thinking about how what does it mean to have this legacy of dispossession and displacement, and to see continuing elimination of people via gang injunctions and rising costs of rent. And so another thing that I want to think about is how white pleasure, so as an effective register, also creates what Ana Muniz calls racial boundaries, right, through gang injunctions, but also thinking about how gang injunctions are gendered, which we don't necessarily talk about in like critical geography studies or whatever the hell I'm engaging in, which is a lot. So we're not thinking about the way that, like, there's clear stipulations in the Echo Park gang injunction that forbid people to wear specific clothes, right? So the Echo Park gang injunction is officially called the Glendale Corridor gang injunction. And like many other gang injunctions in Los Angeles, it criminalizes mundane activities like standing in a corner for 5 minutes. But specifically, it geographically like criminalizes what I call a failed attempt at white masculinity, or what the US, I guess, would consider a failed attempt at white masculinity, right? So it's using these coded styles of dress, like wearing a Dodger hat or a UCLA Bruins hat, which is funny. It criminalizes those aspects on bodies of color, right, and certain bodies. So I'm also building on Catherine Ramirez's work about style politics and thinking about how gang injunctions function to police gender and a very specific, right, femininity and masculinity when you're looking through Echo Park and thinking who's involved in gangs, right? You're not gonna arrest a white woman eating brunch, you're gonna arrest a brown or black girl with heavy eyeliner and thin eyebrows. So all of that is embedded in the style of politics that Catherine Ramirez talks about. And finally, my thesis deals a lot with graffiti writing and tagging as transgressing and resisting disappearance that occurs through gentrification, but that's a lot to talk about. So if you have any questions on that, you can feel free to ask me. And yeah, thank you.